You sign the papers on what you think is a beautiful semi-detached home in the city. You got it for a decent price, rates have finally come down, and you feel like you won the Toronto real estate lottery. But 6 months later, you notice a strange slope in the basement floor, or you get a $30,000 envelope in the mail from your condo board. Suddenly, that dream home is draining your bank account faster than you can earn it. Some people are jumping back into the market after the double-digit decline in prices since early 2022. But in the city of Toronto, buying the wrong property type right now can destroy your equity faster than any market correction. Today, I want to walk you through the most dangerous types of homes in our city that buyers are regretting, and exactly how you can spot the warning signs before you sign on the dotted line. Let's start with something that's causing a massive amount of stress for buyers across Toronto right now: pre-construction and assignment sales. A few years ago, buying pre-construction felt like a guaranteed win. You put down your deposit, waited 4 to 5 years, and assumed the property would be worth more by the time you registered the mortgage. But if you bought a condo or a townhome back in 2021 or 2022, you are likely facing a major reality check in 2026. The market has crashed. While the overall average detached home price in the city of Toronto is holding at around 1.65 million, the condo market has taken a significant hit. The average price of a condo apartment in the city is down to $665,000. Here's why this is dangerous for you as a buyer. When you go to close on that pre-construction unit, you're locked in at a higher price. Your bank is going to do an appraisal. The appraiser doesn't care what you agreed to pay 4 or 5 years ago. They only care about what comparable units in the building or the immediate street sold for in the past 30 days. If there's a gap between your contract price and the bank's appraisal, the bank will not lend you the difference. For example, let's say the contract price when you bought the pre-construction unit was for $750,000 a few years ago. However, now, when the bank completes its appraisal, the report comes back at $650,000. If you do not have that extra $100,000 sitting in a liquid account, you can't close. If you walk away from a pre-construction contract, the developer doesn't just keep your deposit. They can sue you for the difference if they end up selling that unit to someone else at a lower price. If you're looking at assignment sales because you see deep discounts, you need to proceed with caution. You must ensure you have a firm, rock-solid appraisal buffer before you take on someone else's contract. Not to mention, you're competing against developers who are selling completed units with the incentive of HST rebate, which creates downward pressure on your unit. Now, let's talk about existing resale condos. Maybe you aren't looking at pre-construction. Maybe you want a place to live right now in downtown Toronto, and you have noticed there are plenty of entry-level condos available for sale. There's a reason inventory is sitting higher in this segment. In the first half of 2026, we saw active listings remain high, giving buyers a lot of choice. But some of these buildings are financial traps. I divide these dangerous condos into two specific categories: the micro units and older buildings with neglected reserve funds. First, micro condos. Over the last decade, developers built thousands of units under 500 square feet, often with tiny, windowless sliding door bedrooms. They were designed for short-term rentals and investors, but today buyers want livability. People want space to work from home. If you buy a 420 square foot unit, you might get a great price today, but if your future buyer pool is incredibly small, it is a very difficult asset class to sell when you eventually want to upsize. Second are the older buildings with skyrocketing maintenance fees. When you look at a condo, the purchase price is only one part of the equation. You have to look at the health of the condo corporation. Do not be swayed by the list price only, which might look like a great deal. If the maintenance fees are over $1.25 per square foot, you need to stop. You need to look at price, maintenance fees, and reserve funds via the status certificate review. If the building's reserve funds is severely underfunded, the board will discuss a special assessment, which is a one-time lump sum payment every owner has to make to cover major repairs like fixing a parking garage, replacing the heating system, or building up the reserve fund to where it should be per the Condo Act requirement. If a building has a $20,000 special assessment coming down the pipeline, and you just stretch your budget to make the down payment, where is that money going to come from? This also could create an issue for getting mortgage financing. Never buy a condo without having your lawyer review the status certificate first. If a seller refuses to let you insert a status certificate review condition into your offer, walk away. This is a non-negotiable. It's not worth the risk. Third, this one applies if you're looking for a freehold home. Toronto has beautiful historic character homes, Victorian semi-detached houses, old Edwardian detached properties. They have so much charm. Buying a fully renovated home is highly appealing. Some buyers target properties that have been recently flipped. You walk in and it looks great. You see beautiful white oak, white plank, engineered hardwood, quartz counter with waterfall edge, brand new matte black light fixtures, and a freshly painted brick exterior. But you have to remember, many of these houses are over 100 years old. Some flippers buy these properties, do a quick cosmetic overhaul, and leave the major structural, electrical, and plumbing issues untouched behind the brand new drywall. I've seen homes where the kitchen looked great, but underneath the main floor, the joists were completely rotted and sagging. I've seen flipped homes where they left active knob and tube wiring in the attic, which makes the home nearly impossible to insure in Toronto without rewiring the house at your own expenses. Let's talk unpermitted basement renos. To make a house look larger, some flippers will dig out the basement to create a higher ceiling, a process called underpinning. Done correctly with structural engineers and city permits, it's a nice feature. But done incorrectly or without a permit, it can compromise the foundation of the entire house, and even your neighbor's house if it's a semi-detached. If the city discovers unpermitted structural work, they can issue a work order, forcing you to hire engineers, get permits, or in extreme cases, backfill the work. That can easily cost you tens of thousands of dollars. 4. The unregistered illegal basement apartment. With the average price of a detached home in the city of Toronto sitting around $1.65 million, many buyers are looking for a way to offset their mortgage payments. The most common way to do this is by finding a home with a basement apartment that you can rent out. This is a fantastic strategy, but only if the unit is legal. There's a massive difference between a basement that happens to have a kitchen and a basement that is legally registered as a secondary suite with the City of Toronto. To be considered legal, the basement suite has to meet the Ontario Building Code and Fire Code requirements. It needs proper ceiling height, fire-rated drywall between the units, separate heating controls or a shared system with fire dampers, and most importantly, a safe egress. That means if there is a fire, the tenant needs a direct, safe way out, usually through windows of a specific size or a dedicated secondary door. If a neighbor complains, or if the city inspects the property and finds an illegal unit, they can order you to decommission the kitchen or spend tens of thousands of dollars to bring it up to code. If you bought the home relying on that tenant's rent to pay your mortgage and suddenly that income stream is cut, you are in a very difficult financial position. When you're looking at homes with basement suites, look at the MLS listing. If it says seller does not warrant the retrofit status of the basement, that's realtor speak for the unit is likely illegal. You need to budget for the cost of making it legal or ensure you can afford the home without the rental income. Now, all of this sounds daunting. Buying a home is a major investment, and it can feel like you're walking through a minefield. But don't feel discouraged because there is a path forward. You can absolutely buy a home in Toronto that builds long-term wealth, provides security, and gives you a wonderful place to create family memories. You need to approach the process methodically. Here's your actionable step-by-step plan to protect yourself and buy safely in today's market. First, never skip the home inspection. Even if you are in a competitive bidding situation, try to get a pre-listing inspection done or make your offer conditional on a home inspection. A qualified inspector will look for knob and tube wiring, check the foundation, and use thermal imaging to search for hidden water damage behind those walls. Second, use the city's resources. Before you buy a house with a basement suite or major renovation, go to the City of Toronto Building Permit Registry online. It's a public website. You can type any address and see exactly what permits were applied for, what was approved, and whether the final inspections were signed off. If the seller claims they dug out the basement or did a full structural renovation, but there are no permits on file, that is a red flag. Third, prioritize land value and property types. While the condo market has plenty of supply, semi-detached and detached homes in established Toronto neighborhoods have historically proven to be resilient. If you're choosing between a luxury condo with high maintenance fees or a slightly smaller semi-detached home that needs little cosmetic love, the freehold property is going to be the safer long-term investment. Watch this video to see why waiting for Toronto houses to crash is costing you $100,000. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.